Welcome, and for my final project, I chose to analyze a stunning native developed short film. Short films are a style of movie that are made to share a story or theme in a condensed form. Short movies are a far lesser version of feature films, which likely construct the majority of films you've seen. Short films have far smaller budgets, runtime, and exposure once released when compared to traditional feature films. However, this genre allows more independent filmmakers to flourish in their own environment. When it comes to short films, the more independent the group making the film, often the more creative or derivative the movie is. And the short film Bloodland is an exquisite example of these. Bloodland is a short film that was uploaded to YouTube in January 23, 2013, under the channel name Maya. Maya has 86 subscribers currently, and with just 6 videos uploaded, the most recent being her one and only short film. The other videos on her channel consist of anti-fracking demonstrations, such as protests and awareness videos. They're all visibly homemade and are often subject to a shaky camera or portrait style of formatting, something you'd see on a phone. However, her short film has a layer of editing and effort that is far superior than the other pieces in her catalog of videos. Her dedication against fracking is layered across all of her videos, including her short film, which serves as a deep dive into the brutality Maya feels fracking incites on her people and land. She also appears to live near Blackfoot territories, as it's mentioned a few times in some of her videos, which is located in northwestern Montana. Now, I believe it's important to understand the history of the Blackfoot, even if briefly. The Blackfeet, once feared Plains warriors, they were among the first Native American tribes to move westward because they were eventually forced out of their Great Lakes region by white settlement. They were nomadic and skilled hunters, like a lot of Native Americans. They expanded their territory using horses, and even ended up displacing other tribes in the northwestern Great Plains. By the early 1800s, their numbers exceeded 15,000, and they were formidable in battle. Encounters with Lewis and Clark were generally peaceful, but fur traders considered them a menace. The U.S. government's efforts to end intertribal warfare in 1855 led to a treaty granting the Blackfeet a significant portion of Montana, but their lands were later diminished through deception. The tribe became very deprived as their territory shrank and bison disappeared. Eventually, they were able to establish a reservation with the United States government. However, the struggle to keep land continues today. Now let's start to break down the film. It starts off with a quote from Murphy Oil Corp. Reading, "Some say we do not inherit our world from past generations as much as we borrow it from future ones." This quote is telling of how a corporation feels towards land and its value. After this quote, the film fades to a scene of a grassy plain with a woman floating out of the ground. Then a thundering drum starts to chant. Each time the drum is struck, the film jumps to a separate, gruesome scene suddenly before returning to the main frame. It's jolting and uncomfortable. The imagery is flashing violently with each drum note. It's a unique and abstract style of film, but it's worth noting that these parallel stories are jumped from and to throughout the entire film until the very end where they eventually merge. The woman is suddenly dragged away violently and is tied to a table by two men in high-vis vests. A feminine voice begins to speak over the drums as a horrible scene unfolds. The men take out large drills before aiming them at the woman. As the woman is drilled into, the jump shots now depict a pile of dirt being drilled into in a similar way. The brutal scene continues until the men begin to dig into the woman with their gloved hands. And again, the dirt is treated the same way, maintaining this mirrored relationship between the two storylines. The brutal assault upon the woman begins to slow, however, before the scene calms and focuses on the table where the blood is starting to pool. This imagery is now becoming identical to the beginning scenes showing during the drum strikes, as the pooling blood now begins to fall at the table. The table where the woman was lying is now covered in a pile of dirt, with organs spilling its contents out of the pile. The unpleasant depiction binding the idea of native life and soil as the film fades to black. A quote is displayed, the same as the beginning, however, this quote for the Blackfoot, Isapo Muxika. The quote reads, "Our land is more valuable than our money, As long as the sun shines and the waters flow, this land will be here to give life to men and animals. We cannot sell the life of men and animals. It was put here by the Great Spirit, and we cannot sell it because it does not belong to us. This quote creates a direct contrast between the natives' cherishment of the land and the current disrespect for land seen from corporate companies. Taking a step back, let's analyze what the short film Bloodland means as a whole. Maya's heavy-handed anti-fracking beliefs are displayed proud and vividly in the short film, like many of her other videos. The short film, however, specifically and excruciatingly telegraphs the brutality Maya feels more than any of her other videos. The act of fracking itself is a defilement of land, whether land is native or not, and stands as one of many negative effects of colonialism. Protests against fracking aren't indigenously exclusive, however, no other culture currently shares the same level of respect for land. In her protests against fracking establishments, Maya has solidified herself as a resilient individual who values the survival of her land over herself. She sees herself and her heritage in the land, and because of this, she holds the treatment of land to a high standard. Her feelings towards her land are shared by the people around her as well. The Blackfoot community, which she is involved in, clearly shares the same ideals as her and most definitely is an influence on her beliefs. Beliefs that revolve around the Earth's constant sustaining of human life, at least in this context. Creating a film like Bloodland is a way to serve the survivance of the subject and its worth in a way that may likely survive forever on the internet. Without restating the value of the land as a whole, the land will always be subject to more and more public disrespect. What Maya is doing by creating the short film is solidifying and rejuvenating the idea that the land is sustaining our lives, which is something that everyone should realistically care about. However, there is constant ignorance towards colonialistic acts, and Maya knows this fracking is no different, making it her goal to combat fracking and resistance of ignorant corporate plans. Maya's hardened commitment to her beliefs and culture is something to respect, while Bloodland is the testament to that will. Her work addresses the form of colonialism caused by the fracking industry in her area and across the nation. On top of that, her film not only resists against the harmful idea of fracking, but also serves to retell the value of land to its viewers. After making the film Bloodland, Maya received numerous awards for her work. I believe that her accomplishments are well deserved and could be interpreted as a form of resistance, along with the previous stated reasons, of course. Thank you for listening, and I highly recommend taking time to digest Bloodland on your own, as it's difficult to fully explain in words myself. Is there any questions?